All right. So we've discussed value some. It's basic element of art. It's the darkness or lightness of an object. And seeing value is what allows us to understand the dimension, the three-dimensional form of an object and even its texture. So it's very important when drawing that you add value. Now, when you're drawing from life, you should constantly be comparing one area of what you're drawing to another. So we are doing the still life of cups, and we're going to add some shading to it, but first you need to get the drawing down, get the forms drawn in perspective. So you can use your pencil to measure things by holding it at arm's length in front of you. So probably don't have what you're drawing right in front of you because it gets hard to measure things accurately. So give it yourself a little bit of distance from it. I'm actually gonna slide this over a little bit. Okay, so I've got one cup upside down and two on their side. Now, when I'm drawing cylinders like this, I like to start with the ellipse, which is that foreshortened circle. I know the bottom of this is a circle, but the only way I'm going to actually see a perfect circle is if I am looking straight down at it, which I'm not. So if you close one eye and trace the outline in the air, you'll see that you're actually tracing an oval, not a circle. So I need to know the proportions of that oval. How tall is it compared to how wide? So I'm going to hold my pencil straight in front of me, straight up from the ground, perfectly perpendicular to the ground. You don't want to lean it backward or forward because it's not going to be consistent from one measurement to the next, and your proportions throughout the drawing are going to be different. Like one part will be drawn with the one proportion and the other with another, so it's not going to make sense at the end. So perfectly perpendicular, arm's length, and I'm going to line the end of it up with that back edge of the cup, and then I'm marking with my thumb the front edge, which from the way I'm viewing it, it looks like it's the top and the bottom of that shape. Okay, so then I'm going to turn it horizontal, parallel to my body, again, not slanting backward or forward, and I'm holding my thumb where I measured. So it looks like it is about 1.5 times wide as it is tall. So now I need to draw that. And that cup is, if you kind of make a square or a rectangle with your fingers, you can see where it's going to land on the page. So I'm making a rectangle about the same proportion as my paper, and it's going to be towards the top right. It's not going to be dead center. It's going to be up a little bit. Now, when you're drawing, don't hold your pencil the exact same way you do as when you're writing. So when you're writing, you usually have a pretty tight grip on it, and you hold it pretty upright. So what that tends to do is, one, you tend to apply more pressure, which makes a darker line, which means it's going to be harder to erase. And two, you can't always see the end of your pencil. So, and three, last, you write from your wrist, basically. It's just moving your fingers and your wrist. But when you do that, you have a very limited range of motion, which is why it's nearly impossible to draw a straight line because you can only go a very short distance before your wrist has to turn or it has to curve. So when you're drawing, loosen up on your pencil a little bit, hold it at more of an angle so that you can see where the point is touching the page at all times. I usually hold mine like this, kind of resting on top of my hand, horizontal, or other times, especially when I am shading, I'll actually hold it under my hand. And then you want to draw from with your elbow and your shoulder. Use your whole arm to draw because you have a much larger range of motion, which means you have more control and you can make smoother curves and longer, straighter lines. So I need to draw that ellipse. And I actually sometimes rest my pinky on the paper and I kind of trace and plan out in the air above the paper where I want to draw before I actually put my pencil down. And notice I have a lot of lines right here that I just drew. That's okay because I always think of it as searching for the line and I can erase. That's why we start in pencil, and that's also why you want to start planning your drawings by drawing lightly because then you can erase it and you don't get dark until you know for sure where things are going to go and where your shadows are. I'm drawing a little dark right now so you can see it better. Normally I would be drawing lighter than this. Okay, so I'm going to measure that and compare, see how close I was. Okay, I'm a little bit wider. This is about 2 times as wide as it is tall. So I need to shorten, make this a little bit narrower. Okay, that got a little crazy. I have, there's my eraser, there it is. I have a whole bunch of lines, so to the point where I'm not sure where the line I want is. So I'm gonna pause and clean this up a little bit. Okay, that's a little better. Now, if I measure how tall it is and then turn that sideways, one, mark it, still a little bit wide. One and a half. Perfect. Okay, so now I need my sides. So I want to know what angle those sides are going down at. So I'm holding my pencil straight up and I'm just gonna line it up kind of adjacent, so just, or tangent, just right next to that side and see about what angle that's at. So it's just a little bit to the left of my vertical. So I'd say like 20, 30 degrees to the left. So as I'm drawing from my shoulder using my whole arm. Yeah, I think that looks about right. Maybe angled a little bit more. Okay, and then the other side is going to be just the mere reflection of that angle because I know that this cup is symmetrical. Okay, now I need to figure out how tall this cup is. Where's the bottom of it? So again, I'm going to hold it vertical, perpendicular to the floor. Perpendicular, remember, means just 90 degrees. And I'm going to measure the height of that elliptical. I'm measuring this height right here because I've already measured that. That is now a constant in my drawing. So I can reference everything back to that. and I know that I will have the correct proportions. It's all about consistency. So I'm measuring the height of that, and then I'm going to see how many times that the height of the side of the cup is. So 1, 2, 3. It's about 3 times as tall as this. So on my drawing now, I'm going to measure how tall did I make that, and then 1, mark it, 2, 3. So that's about where the base is. And then kind of trace the curve in the air, decide about how much that is curving. It should pretty closely echo the curve of the bottom here. And there's 1 cup. Okay, now I need to know where this cup is compared to that one. What we're doing is we're translating this 3-dimensional thing into a 2-dimensional image. So, and I'm standing in the same place every time I go to measure it because, again, it's just about consistency, keeping those proportions constant. So I'm going to hold my pencil horizontal, parallel to my body and the floor, not going back in space at all. And I'm going to line it up with this back part of the cup. And I see that it intersects about with the front edge of the bottom of this cup. So I'm actually going to take a line across and very lightly just draw that line across the page. So we call these sight lines or extension lines a lot. And they're just used to measure things, compare where things are.
Call them Cubs.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
So this is the top of the other cup drawing. Now I need to know how far over it is. Well, it overlaps this cup just a little bit. About there. Yeah. And if I measure from where the top of the front edge of the cup goes, it's about 1/3 of the way down the side of the cup, so about right there. And then the bottom of the boat tree is just below the bottom of that cup because it's closer to me, so it's a little bit lower in space, the way it appears. So now I need to draw that shape. And I'm looking inside the cup, so it's pretty close to a perfect circle, but it's not going to be exactly a perfect circle. That would only happen if I were looking straight at it from down here, which I'm not. So again, I'm going to measure how tall it is, and then turn horizontal and compare that to the width. It's actually really close to a perfect circle. I think it's just barely taller than it is wide. Gonna erase the corner of that back cup because this cup is in front, it's covering it. I can't see through it, they're opaque. And then throw my pencil. Guess about what angle the sides of the cup are. So the left side is at a much flatter angle than the right. And back edge of that is just a little bit smaller then the width of this one. Match the curve. There's my second cup. And might even complete this curve to figure out where I can see part of the base inside that cup. And then I can just erase the part where I can't see through the side of the cup. Darken this line so you can see it. And there's two cups drawn in perspective. So in your sketchbook, just do some thumbnail drawings and practice measuring what you're seeing and comparing the proportions, and draw these extension lines, these sight lines, to see how things are lining up in space.